Okay, so we are here to talk about auction and event fundraisers. And I know you guys are using, or perhaps are in the process of getting up to speed with Keela and working with that. And we're going to really want to talk about event and auction fundraising. Two main purposes here. This can be your marquee event, raising money and raising awareness for your cause. So we're going to dive into to both of those because they're both important in the activity. So like Ishay mentioned, Octria has been around for 11 years. We're celebrating our 11-year anniversary, 40,000 auctions, $400 million raised using Octria, but you guys are the heroes. It's you that are raising that money, spending it, and doing amazing things in your community. I saw a couple notes in there. I see some social services people. I saw some groups put in there that they were animal rights. We have all sorts of groups that use Octria. So here's our agenda. We're going to talk about raising money, raising awareness. We're going to talk about types of event fundraisers, talk about money makers around those, and we're going to talk about the human resources required to do each one so that you can either plan an in-person event, an online event, a hybrid or virtual, and then we'll dive into a little bit of the logistics, talking about running the actual event. Your bidder or your attendee will register, bid, win, donate, and then you'll close out with collections. And I brought along some in real life examples to show you what this looks like. This is just the beginning. I have hours and hours and hours of webinars all on auction and event fundraising. And I just want to start with, this is your marquee event. This is your garden. This is where you're going to grow. And these events grow from year to year. So don't be intimidated if you see other event and auctions that are happening and they're gigantic and they've got, hundreds of people that show up and they make thousands upon hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's great. Don't worry. These events grow from year to year. And wherever you start is the place that you will move from. So let's talk about this. You're going to raise money for your cause as well as raise awareness. It's a two-pronged effort here, and you want to grow both of those trees. And I'm going to talk about doing these activities during the event and then after the event, because it all ties in with your CRM, you're continuing the relationship with your supporter, your donor, your bidder. So you want to raise money during your event. And here are some event fundraising auction revenue streams. You've got your auction, you've got sponsorship sales, cash donations, raffle sales, auctions, and buy-in parties. Literally each one of these bullets is its own webinar as well, but that's the broad stroke on this. Raising money after the event fundraiser. You want to show continued support for those that supported you. You had this marquee event, people showed up, whether it was virtual or in person, they rallied around, they donated, they participated in your auction, they watched your presentation, they watched your testimonials. Now it's your responsibility to continue that conversation. Report on how the funds are serving the needs. Your sponsorships can continue to year-round instead of just for events. And now you've got new volunteers, new influencers, and you can include those people in your future events and recurring donations. Okay, so let's talk about choices. You've got your basket of fruit here. The right event fundraiser is the one that's right for your event. It's okay to get ideas from everybody else and pick other people's brains, but the one that's right for you has to be right in a couple different ways. There's different types of event fundraisers. You have your in-person events, which I would, I would say it was the primary prior to COVID, but there were tons of online events even before that. And online events are right for some groups. And then you've got your virtual and your hybrid, which have kind of joined the mix since COVID. But any of these event fundraisers are absolutely viable and can make money for your group. I want to talk about the expectations for your organization and your participants. You want to set that up in advance. You want to tell your participants what to expect, how long the event is going to run, how they can participate. And the goal, the immediate goal, is fundraising and then funding for long-term growth. And like I said, these events grow year after year. I would love for you to put in the chat box whether or not you've done an event fundraiser. If you have, put in parentheses how many years you've done it. If you haven't done an auction or event fundraiser, tell me what the stumbling block might be. What do you think when it comes to those? What's going to get you over that hump? What are you considering? Because I want to make sure that I include the information that you're sharing with me so that this conversation is relevant. So if you've done it and you've done a bunch, give me an idea. If you're considering it and that's why you're hanging out with us today, that's a good thing too. I promise I will answer every question and comment after this webinar ends, because I know it's hard and there's so many different moving parts to this. It looks like one person marked in there, this is her first year from maternity home, looking for fundraising versus local donations. That's a great way to raise awareness for your group. Stumbling blocks include staffing levels, small number of people. I totally got you, not sure where to start. Never done an event fundraiser, we're relatively new and haven't gotten to it yet. That's totally great, you're in the right place. I've not done it, but was successful, coordinated 3 online auctions, raised money for awesome. 25K so far, congratulations. Stumbling block is sponsorships. I have sponsorships for you. Concern over it won't be a stuffy event. Oh my gosh, this is all perfect. This is exactly what we hear all the time. And I hope I can squelch some of this and give you some ideas as to where to start. Let's start with the type and location of the event. So I've got my little hothouse here where my tomatoes are. Where are you going to do this? And what kind of resources do you have available? So if you're going to do an in-person or a gala or a party, you do need some additional people. You do need some additional resources. You need a place to gather. You need to have all the party activities that go along with it. And then you need people and resources to check in, your vendors, sign up with your vendors in advance. And it really does add another layer if you're doing an in-person or a gala or a party. A lot of groups will take something that's already working for them. If you're a school and you do, math and science night, and that's one of your most frequently attended events already, it's okay to add on an auction to that ahead of time, after. You don't have to reinvent a well-established event or party to add on a fundraising component to it. Online auctions are great. Online event fundraisers are great. And the reason is because you can run them for days or weeks instead of just for a few hours. So there's a great spot for online. And virtual and hybrid are kind of a mix of those, where you're pulling in bits and pieces of both of those. But you have to think about the people as well as the resources, because if you're doing a virtual or hybrid, you're going to need computer connections, you're going to need apparatuses to broadcast and things along those lines. And I'm going to get into that. So let's talk about some decisions to decide whether you're going to make an event. So this is the minimum decisions to start so that you can evolve or continue working on it. Your date. You don't want to schedule anything up against the Super Bowl, up against any gigantic events that are in your community already, and start to narrow it down. And when do you need funding? If you're a school, do you want to do your fundraising in the beginning of the year so that you have a cash flow situation? When does your fiscal year begin and end? So think about that in a global sense and then start to narrow it down. I want to bring your attention in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to take you through 3 steps. You're going to plan, you're going to run, and you're going to close your event. So right now we're talking about planning. So during that planning phase, you want to figure out what opportunities to give, what pathways of giving are you going to provide, whether it's sponsorships, raffles, things along those lines. And then what platform are you going to use to plan, run, and close the fundraiser? Of course, my vote is for Octria, but you need to have a plan in place to be able to plan this, run it, and close it. So I always tell people, plant what grows and try something new each season. Approximately a third of your income is auction, a third is donations, and a third is sponsors, but there's no hard and fast rule here. And then you can go ahead and include tickets, raffles, gamification, merchandise. And you'll see events that have been going on for multiple years. You'll see they have all this stuff. You don't have to do all that stuff. You can start small and grow it and add on, and then experiment. Did your sponsors do well? Maybe we should add additional sponsors. Maybe we should add additional levels of sponsorships. So I've got the seeds on the left there, and you want to plant what grows. So let's talk about running the event itself. So you've got ticket sales, you've got sponsorship sales and promotion, and your solicited items. So if you're having an event and you want to sell tickets, you can push up the price of that ticket so that there's some margin and some revenue in there for you. You can do early bird tickets, you can do VIP tickets, you can do tickets that include some extra food, some extra beverages, some seating locations, things that are intangible that you can upsell for will be extra revenue for you. Sponsor sales and promotion is another great way to increase your income. And like I said, if you're just starting out, you can start small. Put them up for sale, put them on your website during your planning and running phase, and you never know who's going to bump into it and show up. Sponsors beget sponsors. Once one sponsor is up there and they see somebody's logo on there, they're like, how come ours isn't there? We want to participate also. So starting small is okay, and that will grow. And then when you're running your event, you want to solicit, if you're running an auction, for your auction items. And here at Octory, we make it easy. You can put a solicitation page up on your event website, your microsite. But it's okay to go out and ask everybody. We have some sample procurement letters in our resources. And it just says, we're running an auction event. Can you support us? Here's our date. Here's our time. Doesn't have to be fancy, but make lots of copies of these and put them in your car, put them in your purse, put them in the kids' backpacks, and ask everybody. You never know who's going to support you. And if they can't support you, just ask them if they'll hand out a couple notes. There are so many things that I promise will surprise you when you are soliciting for your items. So here's a real life sponsorships. And these are big. These events have been around for many years, but they didn't start out this size. On the left is Hoedown for Hope, benefiting the children with hearing loss. And this is a nice little slick that they've made. And this is a printable, as well as they put it on their website, and it talks about their event sponsorship. And you can see it's got pictures of their event in the past, how fun it was. In big red letters, it's got who they're benefiting, the dates, as well as the important pieces underneath of it and how to contribute. And then the one on the right is actually a golf tournament that was selling sponsorships. Look, I see Microsoft is at the top and you're wondering, oh, how can we get Microsoft? It's all about relationships and networking. You might not be able to get Microsoft, but you could probably get a realtor. Those people are very active in their marketing services. And it might not go for $50,000 the first year, obviously, but it can be very reasonable. And sponsorships are a great way to start. And I'm telling you, they grow from year to year to year. Yes, I do see there's some questions coming in. I promise I will answer everything. Here's another in real life auction catalog. I brought this along. I brought my receipts here. It's easy. You put your auction up on the website, and if you're doing an in-person auction, you'll want to print off your bid sheet so that people can actually take their pencil and put them on their bids on there. If you want to do it online or mobile at the event, people can scan their QR codes, they can make a current bid, and as soon as they get outbid, they'll get notifications, and the income keeps going higher and higher and higher. And you can mess around with this microsite and make it look really nice. I know Keela does a great job in their forms and in their website pages with templates, and so does Octory. So if you're with Keela, then you'll feel comfortable Octria as well. Okay, so that's planning. During the event now, people are there, people are excited, they're hanging out with you. There's all sorts of ways you can push for additional revenue. And I try and tell people you can actually sell these in advance. People mentally will buy their ticket, maybe they'll buy a raffle ticket, maybe they'll buy a bottle of wine. Then they will, when they walk in the door or watch the virtual event or hang out for the hybrid event, their amount due is zero mentally in their mind, and they're starting with a fresh, wallet to support and purchase things or donate or auction. So these are some of the fun ones and the most popular. There's Dessert Dash, and yes or no, does anybody know what a dessert dash is? Just a quick yes, no, that's all I'm wondering. Yes, no, tell me. No. Okay, yay. Okay, I am going to share with you. They're so fun. Okay, so this is at an event and they're doing them for virtual also. So you have 10 tables. You have, some people do 9 desserts and that's really mean, but you have 10 desserts and they're all on display. They're gorgeous. And there's a cheesecake and there's the fudge cake and there's the cupcakes. And you're actually pitting the tables against each other to raise funds and donate. And whichever table has the most amount of donations gets to choose their dessert first. You can see how anxious people would get because they want that gigantic 7-layer chocolate cake, and they start putting their money in and they start donating. And it's really a fun way to get people to continue to contribute and support your event. Wine wall, wine pull. Give me a yes, no on that one, and I'll kind of babble about that one also. You can purchase your wine from a wine store, provided your event will allow you to do this, and most of them will since it's for fundraising. Purchase your wine and you can put them up so that wrapped in newspaper, or you can have them just on the wall where people purchase. And it's you can do it as a blind pull. So you'll set you'll pick up your wine. Most of them are, sub $10. You'll sell it for $10, $15, and people will pull it and they'll enjoy it at their location, at their table. And then you put in a couple that are actually a little more premium. So it's the gamification of getting the good bottle of wine. Raffle sales, everybody knows about raffle sales. You put in your $5, you get a ticket, but I want to go bigger, think bigger. Instead of asking for somebody for $5 out of their wallet, ask them for 20, ask them for 50, ask them for 100, bundle those together and do some jumbo raffles. Merchandise sales, people love to wear what they support. They will purchase merchandise that has your logo on it, your swag. And the same thing for food and drink tickets. Have a signature food or a signature drink available at your event. We saw a lot of this during COVID for swag boxes. When people were watching virtual events, they were sent out VIP boxes. The contents were worth probably $25 in value, and you double that, sell it for $50. There's another revenue stream for you. I brought along some receipts for this one. I had mentioned jumbo raffle, but I didn't go into details because I wanted to show you what that looked like. This is a great example. Bangor Symphony Orchestra, they do a phenomenal job on their auction. And for this is what they ran for their their online auction for this past year. And they're gearing up again. So they did a jumbo raffle and they wanted to raffle off a $2,000 Airbnb gift card. So this is a great place to sell sponsorships. Hey, sponsor, do you want to sponsor our $2,000 event, or do you want to participate and do half of it and maybe 2 sponsors want to come in? In any event, you have your $2,000 Airbnb gift card. You sell those tickets for $100. They sold them for $50 and they only sold 100 of those gift cards. Obviously, they walked around with a $3,000 revenue net. I don't know if they had that sponsored or not, but we do see it a lot where people will have a sponsorship for their jumbo. And you don't have to go jumbo $2,000 the first year. I know a lot of groups that did a $500 Amazon raffle gift certificate, sold them for $20, did max of 100, and sold them out way before the event closed. So, you know, if somebody's spending a little bit to win a big gift card, they sell quickly and they sell out, especially when you set a quantity limit and people know that there's going to be a really good chance of them winning. And here's a in real life example of a whiskey wall and wine wall. And you can see in these two particular examples, they put them out unencumbered, not closed in, and people were able to choose exactly what they wanted and purchase those. Like I said, some groups will go ahead and wrap those wine bottles, and then it'll be a blind wine pull. Okay, so we talked about raising revenue. Let's talk about raising awareness during the event, because you want people to know who you are, what you do, and you want them to spread that word everywhere, right? So this is your opportunity to gain new influencers as well as new communication streams. And you can do that with your sponsors. You have a couple sponsors, you give them the information so that they can share out your event as well as what they do. Give them a certificate to put in their window if they're a retail establishment. Give them language, give them a logo that they can share to their email list, to their social media, to their communication channels. Hey, we're supporting so-and-so because of, and then, you know, they can fill in the reason, but give them the graphics to go with it so that all they have to do is share it. Same thing with your donors. If people are donating items to your auction event, same thing. Share with them their item when you have it up for auction, but then also share with them the same thing, your logo, why they're donating, why are they supporting your group, and give them an easy opportunity to then share it back out. And like I said, through their email, their social media, and even traditional mail. People always ask me, how do we do that? What's the best way? The best way is your communication channel. Use your social media. If you're on Facebook and Twitter, make sure those channels are filled with current information. You can't just leave it dormant and then a week before an event start throwing stuff up there and be surprised when people don't respond. You want to start filling that funnel, filling that communication channel regularly, and hang out where your group is. If you have a younger group and they're hanging out on TikTok, go ahead and use TikTok. If you've got a group that's only on Facebook or Twitter, then use those. So go where your audience is. Okay, so we talked about raising awareness before. Now we're going to talk about raising awareness after the event. And honestly, you're going to have to experiment a little bit. Experiment to see where you get your maximum engagement, and always have a call to action in there. And the call to action is to support you next year, come volunteer, share a message, donate, some sort of call to action that is meaningful. And you want to reveal the connection between the reader and the mission, and always tie those two together. You can find creative ways, showing a new perspective, maybe the point of view of a volunteer, maybe a volunteer that was at the event and what they learned and how they feel about their volunteer activities. Donors, sponsors, why are they choosing your charity as a beneficiary? And you always want to convey the impact for supporting. Dollars, how are they spent? How are you, feeding the hungry, housing the poor, helping the animals? I think I saw some hospital services here. How are you doing that? So always have those, the impact as well as your call to action together so that people can take advantage of supporting that. So social media, I touched on this before, but social media does need regular watering. You want to nourish those social media feeds with images, and tags and hashtags are not just for kids anymore. When you tag your donors, when you tag your sponsors, it just makes it easier for them to reshare. And like I said, post regularly. Nothing is less appealing than when a potential donor clicks on your social media links and finds the most recent post is months old. So don't do that. If you're not using it, that's okay. Don't continue to point people there if there's nothing in there. So here's some in real life social media pieces. And these were for event fundraisers, and these were shared by one of our event planners. You can see the one on the left is Medical Home Plus. They're featuring, so they're filling their funnel, they're filling their social media every day with activities, and it says only 8 more days. And of course they had one for 7 more days, 6 more days, 5 more days. And this day they were particularly talking about their wine selection. The raffles were still available, and a click for a call to action on there. The one on the right has an amazing array of photos on there. You want to give the perspective. So you're giving the perspective of the beautiful children and how it's supporting the children's hope. Same thing, call to action, a link where somebody can do something. And then tell your story. Your website presence is incredibly powerful. When you are doing an auction or event fundraiser, if you're using Octree, you'll have a microsite. So you want to make sure that you have those two connected, a big fat button or a big fat drop down on your microsite that goes back to your main website, and vice versa, so that people can move seamlessly between the two. They shouldn't stand alone, they should work together. Same thing with your donation page from Keela. You want to make sure that that's all working together. And you want to email from your regular program that you use. Obviously, you're using Keela for your CRM. People are used to getting emails from you for that. So when you're pushing out the initial notifications and any sort of marketing pieces, you want to do it from the email program that your recipients are going to be used to receiving. That way, everything ends up in the inbox and not a spam box. And interact with your followers in a timely manner, whether it's before, during, and after. Show that, give them opportunities to do early bird pricing, participate in your event. I always say this, you can't over communicate when it comes to your event and your mission. If you lead with your mission, you can't go wrong. And if they drop off, it's okay. They're probably not going to be a supporter anyway, and it cleans up your list. So let's talk about post-event. So that was before, during. Now we're talking about closing and post-event. Use your communication channels, like I said, and follow up immediately after the event fundraiser, even if it's the day after, even if you don't have the exact numbers. Oh my gosh, it was a great event. Thank you to our supporters. We're still tallying up the numbers. Isn't that wonderful? Communicate, 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 communicate. It's okay. Your bidders and your donors are the superheroes. They're the ones that are supporting your cause. Celebrate them in every way possible. And then continue to spark interest. What's next? What event is coming up? What sort of volunteer opportunities are there? And provide status and regular updates. Images and video make your posts, make your emails, make your website sing. They really do. So include those as well. It takes up more space, more real estate on your social media feeds. You can include that in your microsite for your event website, and it just gives people an opportunity to continue to interact and find something that speaks to them. Okay, so I mostly honed in on auction and major event fundraising, but events can be all year round, and you can do peer-to-peer fundraising. Give me a yes, no on here. I know Keela just released some peer-to-peer activity, some functionality. I'd love to know, yes, no, are you guys doing peer-to-peer? Are you doing any sort of tournaments, or are you doing Giving Tuesday? Just, you can put P2P, tournament, Giving Tuesday in the notes here if you want. Just curious if anybody is currently doing them or in the purpose on the precipice of doing them. Giving Tuesday, peer-to-peer. We've tried to peer-to-peer, Giving Tuesday a few times, not regularly, Giving Tuesday. Okay, cool. So any dollars you get in are more dollars than you had the day before. So don't be disappointed if you didn't get what you thought. because you will have that many more dollars to do something with. Even if it's just a couple, it all adds up, and these events grow from year to year. So peer-to-peer is where you're going to have an ambassador. Somebody's going to raise the flag and say, yes, I'm supporting this group, and reach out to their friends and their Rolodex and their email list. Tournaments can be golf tournaments, readathons, any sort of sports, any sort of activity, any sort of interaction, spelling bee tournaments. We see all sorts of tournaments, and those will appeal to different people as well. Somebody that plays golf may not necessarily hang out at an auction or a peer-to-peer, but they love golf, so they're going to come to that golf. And as you kind of gather more and unique people and give them other ways to interact with you, you're going to have them as supporters. And the same thing for Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday does grow from year to year also. I know it can be a big push at the end of the year, but if you plan it out right, you can have some successes with Giving Tuesday. And we've done a lot of webinars on those also. We're talking about all sorts of setting up your donation pages so that they are relevant to your groups. So let's talk about, I'm going to hone in a little bit more on the Octria side. I'm not going to drive you crazy with Octria. You can come to any demo, come to any webinars, but same thing. You're going to plan, you're going to run, you're going to close. And here's a summary of what that looks like. For your in-person fundraiser, you're going to sell your tickets. You're going to print your bid sheets in your catalog. You're going to manage your tables where everybody's going to sit if they're going to have seated dining. And then you can also have your catalog preview on your website. And I brought along some examples of what that could look like. And we have a lot of templates. I know Keela does a great job on their templates, and so does Octria. For an online only auction. So if you don't want to do one in person, it's just too much. We don't want to plan all the food and the decorations and all that. That's okay. You can plan an online auction and do phenomenal with that also. You would set your bidding time frame. You'll have your dedicated website. And my two favorites that I encourage everybody to use is bid extension and proxy. So bid extension is really cool. You know, when you're trying to bid on something on eBay, you really want that pair of, red Chuck Taylors, and you're like, I'm going to get in there at the last second and put my bid in, and then somebody comes in and snags it from you. Because you're a charity, we do bid extension. So if somebody puts in a bid at the last second, you can open that window even further past the bidding closing period. So if somebody goes and grabs that coffee maker 3 seconds before it closes, that auction item stays open longer. So the people that had bid prior can go ahead and bid. And we see bid extension as a very valuable tool. And we'll see auctions stay open 30, 40, 50 minutes still. Proxy, somebody can put in a bid, say how much they want to bid for, and let the machine do it for them. And then you can use your mobile app with Octria. This is really great because people will get outbid notifications directly on their phone. And phones are never far from people's pockets. So I want to talk about planning your virtual or hybrid. This is online, where people will be watching your show, your activity. You'll have to plan it. So you need an MC, you need content. Never go over 45 minutes on these. People just don't have the wherewithal to sit there and watch, unless it's something spectacular, like this symphony. Actually, that symphony, we had another symphony that was out west, and the group, the students did an amazing symphonic production, and people tuned in for an extended period of time for that. But if you're just talking about your testimonials, ordinarily what would be up on a stage, you want to keep that super short and make it purposeful. You can put video on your event website. You can put your live video feed up there. We have something which is called the live auction controller. You can actually run a live auction with the Octria platform. But I always suggest practice, so that your bids will soar and everybody that's part of your event is organized and they know what to do. So that's the planning. Now we're running, you're running it. You've got your branded website, you've got your tickets, your auction, your desserts, your games, and then you want to have some credit card connectivity so that you can batch everything out at the end. And you want to promote and recognize your donors and your sponsors. This is where you get to the nitty gritty. You want to tell everybody about your event. Like I said, you can never over communicate as long as you lead with your mission and you give them some good information in each of those messages. And then closing it out, you've got your final bids, email your statements, collections, and reports, which is typical of any sort of fundraising activity that you're working on. And like I said, these events mature from year to year. You can add it on to something that's currently well attended. You want to brand it, whether it's Bid for Kids, Auction for Sharks. Give your event a name, give it a personality, give it an opportunity to grow and become its own ecosystem almost. Sponsors beget sponsors, donors beget donors, and recognize opportunities to grow. What works and what doesn't work? Does your raffle work? Maybe you want to do a couple extra raffles. What doesn't work? Did it not work selling, a signature drink? How about a signature hors d'oeuvre or specialized beer or something like that? So go back, look at what worked, repeat what does, and fundraising can flourish with an event fundraiser. And then here's how to stay in touch with us here at Octria.